Have a good day, everyone. So this is Mr. Faisal there, okay? So from what we actually have been working on for the rest of past 2 weeks time, okay? I'm doing this kind of recording sessions, demonstration because we have a holiday basically on Thursday. So that means I need to basically doing some of the advanced kind of demonstration for those who haven't get the ideas how we're going to work with the brush at the same time to develop your drawing skills, okay, using the brushes, the tool that we actually have to get used to it before we're going to work with our exercise here. Okay, so that means that, okay, for most of the demonstration that I did before, that I actually used a picture as a reference, not an illustration from other people's works there, okay? So that means right now I'm going to draw back again based on the reference, not to trace or to draw on top of it, okay, as a reference there. So guys, okay, one of the reason why I actually using a reference for my demonstrations, because it's really important for you guys to know and understand. All right, the reason why we are going to use a reference, because most people doesn't have any ideas how they want to get to start to work with an illustrations there. So in order to develop our understanding, our lessons kind of arrangements based on our development process there, right, okay, especially in our skills here, so we need to have a subject matters before we get to start our design work. Okay, the process of design work, pre-production kind of design will also take the same kind of process there. There is no such thing you just want to draw something without any kind of ideas there. One of the things why we actually use reference, because it's basically is a part of the process how we're going to develop our first design process, which is we're going to sketch out our ideas. What are the main objective of our lessons, of your tasks, in order to develop your kind of design works there. Okay, there has to be some sort of like subject matters that you work. So that means before you're going to start anything, first of all you have to do some research there, okay? And also one of the main thing that you have to remember there, okay? So I'm not going to use all these kind of hard round brushes there. So remember that, right, okay? Hard round brushes basically is not suitable for you guys to work with your drawing kind of strokes there, right? Okay? You cannot get the right kind of strokes over here, alright, okay? So don't use these hard round brushes there, alright? You guys can use also hard round pressure brushes there, okay, in order to develop your drawing strokes here. But the problem with this kind of drawing strokes, it's hard for you to control the pressure as well, alright? In order to develop your foundations, alright, foundations there, okay, your structures there, okay, when you sketch it out. So you guys were basically graphic design students, so that means you have basically some sort of like ideas there, okay, how you're going to start your sketch there, okay, before you're going to sketch it out. So I'm going to use Cal Ultimate Pencil Hard brushes in order to start to sketch it out, my kind of subject matters over here, even though I can actually redraw on top of it, okay? They're going to make our job is more easier there, okay? Okay, but I have done that kind of demonstration before. Now I'm going to show you guys how actually I'm going to use my kind of understanding there based on my drawing skill, but I have to be what we call that genuine with you guys there, okay, that I'm not going to draw exactly as a portrait that I saw from this reference there, because it's going to take quite some time that you work. So what I'm going to do first, okay, if you really want to develop your kind of understanding here, first of all you have to test first your kind of skills. So how to test your skill? First of all, draw this round circle basically for this part, this basically structures of the faces there, right, okay, and then you draw basically the center point there, right, okay, and of course this kind of reference, this kind of photos basically, right, okay, the eye kind of alignment is a bit kind of diagonal there, right, okay, a bit kind of diagonal like this one there, right, okay, it's not that center there, right, okay, so that means you have to understand how to draw basically the basic structures of her face before you're going to add some of the details there. Okay? So all this kind of understanding on complying or apply basically this kind of basic structures, I don't believe that I need to explain a bit kind of details anymore there, right? Okay, so what are the things that you have to do first? Okay, sketch it out your ideas here like this one, okay, your kind of subject matters there first, okay, before you're going to improvise them there. Okay, I try to draw a little bit kind of like anime, manga kind of stuff later on there, okay, from this reference, because I'm using as a reference, okay, when I actually want to draw a hands there, okay, arms there, okay, a hands there, okay, based on these photos here, see the alignment of those arrangements of the eye, the ears there, okay, and also the positions of the hands. Okay, this is the part of, this is something that we have to, you have to apply that first, okay, when it comes to develop your kind of drawings. If you cannot apply this kind of methods, it will be hard for you to develop your kind of drawing kind of understanding over here. Okay. So right now we try to study basically the whole structures from these pictures here, right? Okay, I call it subject matters. You guys know that, right? Okay. So we don't have to explain a bit more what is subject matter is all about, okay, because at this stage, at this kind of moments and stage, okay, you must be able to understand here, all right, okay, how we're going to develop that kind of understanding in order to draw back again your reference, okay, your reference over here. So I'm going to start to develop basically my kind of understanding over here, okay, based on the structure that I have draw, before I'm going to add a little bit kind of details there. You must be able to apply the same kind of process, especially for those who cannot draw well. That's basically the tips that I can give you guys, right? Basically the lips will be kind of lower like this one, right? If you can manage your own drawings, that means in your right, you basically in the right path, right? Okay? As simple as that, right? Okay? But if you seems doesn't know how to manage your own kind of drawings, especially your structures there, okay, when you want to draw there, okay, you just want to draw simply when you hold up your pencil or charcoals or drawing tools, and suddenly everything become magics there, right? Okay, I don't think that they're going to be suit well there, okay, in order to develop the process of learning here. So basically right now I'm trying to draw basically the fingers over here. So make sure when you find your pictures as a reference there, okay, make sure you get the right kind of photos that will give you more advantage for you guys to learn to draw more clearly, right? Okay, your reference that you choose also has to play a very big role in order to develop your understanding here. All right, otherwise, okay, if you find the pictures that can't basically develop that kind of understanding, okay, when the faces actually turn over into this let's just say left side, okay, of the screen there, okay, you must be able to draw this kind of parts right of those nose there. All right, so these areas will be kind of suggestions kind of line only there, okay, but this basically emphasize on the directions of the faces, where basically the faces are actually going to be face in this what we call that in this kind of drawing sheet, okay. It's more logics right? It's more appealing basically for us to organize basically the proportions, okay, when it comes to develop back again those understanding right here. So if you have the right kind of what we call that structures here, right? If you build up your strong kind of foundations on your drawings, it's easy for you to develop back again later on your kind of cleanup line there, right? A lot of people doesn't actually pay a lot of attention to develop this kind of structures here. Those are one of the weakness about your kind of understanding when you want to draw there, right? You don't actually have develop the patience, develop your understanding when you want to draw your foundations of your subject matters here, and you don't be able to, because we are not actually copying the whole thing there, okay? I'm using basically my kind of knowledge and understanding to develop this kind of portraits here, right? And at the same time, so, okay, I do a little bit kind of corrections over there, and I'm not using erasers there, guys. Same goes to what we have been go through before in our first semester's kind of lessons there, right? Okay, so whatever that I'm doing right now is just like when I draw using pencils, the same thing, right? I'm not actually using my erasers to erase my drawings, okay, but instead I'm using my kind of controlling the strokes there, okay, in order to develop back again and correct my kind of correction. I do my corrections while basically I'm construct back again my structures over here, right? So one of the most important thing of this process, okay, from this process is we try to develop our understanding there, okay, on the subject matters that you want to draw. You have to spend more times on working with your kind of corrections over here, but without basically spend a lot of times erase your mistakes there. I'm not actually doing that kind of things there, okay? I'm not erase my mistakes there. You can see that, okay, I didn't use any erasers to erase back again my kind of structures here first, okay? So that's basically one of the most important things. Build up those confidence while basically you draw those there, see? So this is basically one of the most important thing when you want to learn back again digital medias, especially in terms of illustrations, that digital illustrations, okay? Because you have to build up your kind of understanding to controlling your strokes at the same times when you want to draw anything there, okay? Any kind of subject matters there, okay? Because when you draw your characters later on, it will take also your kind of understanding to develop, okay? I'm going to draw the hairline there, okay? Can you see how actually I draw the hairlines here? One stroke at a time there, okay? One stroke at a time there, right? Don't worry about all this kind of mistake that you want to draw when you start to design structures here, okay? But at the same time, try to make sure that you can actually get the right kind of flows when you draw the hair there, alright? Okay? When you want to draw the hair there, right? Hair flows there. So remember what I said before, okay, when we actually have the lesson when you want to draw using charcoals there, right? So always controlling your line, okay? When you want to draw the hair should be look a bit more smoother there, okay? Not hard round, okay, or hard kind of surface there, okay? So just like when you what we call that, controlling the strokes when it comes to draw the basic structures of the hair, make sure that you can basically controlling the strokes well. That's basically one of the most important thing, and you can render them back a little bit here. Try to render a little bit there, right? So the earrings, is that importance there? for me it's not that important at the moment, so I not actually focus a little bit more on the earring there, right? So the rules of working with illustrations, you must be able to know and to understand when actually you have to break it, the rules, when you actually have to improvise basically what you see from here to right. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm trying to render them back, okay, render all this kind of understanding on the shadows line, okay, where basically the shadow is going to be fall off. Okay. At the same time I'm going to render, even though basically I'm going to clean up the line later on, maybe I'm going to improvise a little bit there, okay. So as a designers, as what you actually have been trained as a designer, right, you must be able to see all these kind of improvisations when it comes to develop your understanding when you want to draw that, right? Okay, that's one of the most important things here. Don't get caught in like newbies kind of what we call that understanding there, right? Like whatever that you're going to draw, right, you need to follow exactly, but you're not applying what you've learned before that, right? You guys have learned from me, from Mr. Candy, basically, right, okay, about how actually you're going to develop your understanding when you want to draw the basic structures here, right? And of course, you have to need to have a very extra focus directly when you want to draw here. So if I'm not focused directly at the same time, okay, when I draw, I'm also going to make some of the mistakes. I'm not actually follow exactly what I actually have supposed to draw here directly. So that's why we need to focus more, okay, when you want to draw here. So I have a basic structures that I have draw, okay, basic drawings that I can use as a part of my reference when I want to draw back again or paint these subject matters over here. If you take a look at the flows of the hair from this part, basically are going to be like this one right here. So that means it's going to be changed a little bit. So this demo, I try not to what we call that extend this kind of demo okay, up to 1 hour okay, because I need to make a bit kind of a bit more quick kind of demonstrations over here, but hopefully can give more impact of understanding when you want to when you guys basically want to practice back again your kind of combination of colors over here. Okay, so take a look at how actually I draw the nose there, okay. Please make sure you develop all this kind of understanding back again, okay, when it comes to draw basically your kind of reference, okay, that you have reference with you there, okay. So basically this is my rough kind of drawing based on the reference. All right, you need to find a very good reference there, okay, reference that you guys can use to develop your understanding from here. All right, so when you have studied those kind of reference, okay, right now what you can do there, right, okay, if you want to draw okay, a little bit more bigger there, okay, as a reference over here, so what I can do, I can actually reduce the opacities, add new layers, right, don't forget to save your files here, okay, so don't forget to save your files. Alright, with 2, demo number 1, alright, number 6, because I done a few number kind of exercise okay, this week. So what I can do next, right, is I can use the same brushes, or I can actually use this what I actually introduced to you guys, okay, lately there, okay, the ink kind of line there, okay, because I want to make a little bit kind of a little bit kind of like maybe a little bit kind of like anime styles there, okay. So what I can do, I'm going to simplify the line over here. So when I want to draw this line, okay, and make sure you check the flows and also the size there, okay. Sometimes we can change the size according to what we call that, depending on how you actually want to develop your kind of detailing there, okay? So all this kind of understanding, when if you want to draw or you want to develop there, okay, the skills, need to practice a little bit there, right? Okay, need to practice there, okay, how to move the strokes well. Okay, I'm going to draw the strokes, move the strokes one step at a time there, okay, but practice the line well. Okay, try to practice the smooth kind of line well over here, okay. Same goes to this kind of what we call that. When I want to draw those fingers there, okay, I'm going to improvise basically the understanding there, okay, when you want to draw those kind of hands, because I don't want to make the hands look a bit more like a man kind of hands there, okay. So be careful with it when you want to draw here. So I'm going to simplify a little bit over there. So if you want to draw the hairline there, okay, this is one of the methods that you guys can try here towards. Or if you guys seems to watch a lot of anime, right? A lot of anime there, right? Okay. So you guys can see how actually, right, those artists actually, right, draw those kind of anime kind of hairline there, right? Okay. Do some research a little bit there. So the flows of the hair, according to the reference that we have, they're going to be moved a little bit more like that. Okay. So now it's time for me to draw basically the eyes, the eyebrows here. So from the reference that I have there, right, I try to improvise a little bit. See? So to draw the lips, one of the most important, draw the mouth line there first, and then you don't have to combine basically this line over here there, right, when you want to draw those lips. Those kind of what we call that lesson, actually I have already give you guys a lot of example before. Alright, now if I want to draw the eyes, I can draw the eyes a bit more bigger if I want to. Okay. So all this kind of understanding need to practice it, guys. Okay? In no such way basically you can actually get all this kind of thing without having a lot of practice. See? Even though I didn't actually write. Kind of satisfied with the eyes kind of shape that I draw here, but it's okay at the moment. I can draw basically the neck, the shoulders. Very free kind of line drawing over here directly. So what you can see from what actually have been drawn directly, you can see all the confidence directly that I actually applied from this kind of understanding here directly. And I avoid drawing the earrings actually, because for me it's not important for me to study at the moment directly when it comes to develop my kind of portrait illustration for this week. Okay, so we have basically an outline over here that you can actually draw or apply them back again and paint later on there, right? And of course, okay, I can actually add some of the details over here. You can see right here, I can add some of the details a little bit later on there, okay, right here. Because I see this eye, even though it's human there, okay, the eye is not going to be centralized there, okay. So what I can do, maybe I can erase this one. Okay, when we clean up the line, yes, we can actually improvise that. It doesn't mean that when you draw the structures, right, don't get confused there, okay. When I draw the structures there, okay, I told you guys, okay, not to erase those kind of line there, okay, and strokes, because those are the part of developments there. Right now, you want to clean up the line, you have to make sure that you can know how to correct back again your mistakes, okay, before you're going to finalize your drawing. So those are two different things there. So at this stage, basically, as I mentioned before, as a design assistant, you should know when you want to apply some of the methods that in order to correct back again your kind of understanding when you want to finalize your designs, is all based on your kind of design senses, right? Okay, now what I can do, I can add new layers for painting. These are going to be your cleanup line. These are going to be your base colors there, right? Okay, save your files. Okay, remember how actually going to paint there, right? Okay, either you can actually use eyedroppers to detect basically some sort of like the base colors over here. Okay, and what I can do here right now, when I use brushes back again, I might going to use maybe hard round brushes, but I'm going to reduce the opacity until around 8% or 10%, 8%, right? So depending, right, how much pressure that I want to paint it, right? Okay? But one of the most important thing is when you want to paint, you have to increase your size of your brushes, okay, according to the surface that you want to paint. For example, like this one, right? And when I paint the okay, I'm not actually try to click all the time, okay? Please don't click the whole thing back again, okay? Because if you click more directly like this one, they will become transparent directly. You can see the shading and the shades there, okay? So it won't be blend perfectly that you want to be there, okay? But you can actually do a little bit kind of clicking over here back again, okay? Tap and tap back again, okay? When you want to paint. And of course, okay, the thing that people always worry, okay, about what basically happens in the outside of the outline there, okay? What you can do right here, you just erase that. Simple like that. So I have taught you guys two different kind of way of painting, so okay, whether you're going to use lasso tool to do some selections, or you just can actually you paint up using the soft brushes over here and change at the same time the flows, alright, in order to get the right kind of blending there, okay, when you want to spread your colors, right? If you want to adjust the flow to 100%, right, you guys can have the very strong kind of flows over here. To erase a little bit more clear there, okay, for the area that you don't want to have that kind of base color or skin tone, okay, on that kind of other areas other than those faces. But the most important thing that you have to remember when you want to paint is all about how to indicate the shadows and light together. So you have the base colors over here, save your files, do some selections there like this, alright? Do some selections there if you will there. So why I'm doing selections? So I will prevent the shadow that I paint later on go outside the area that I want to paint there, right? So the next thing is, what I'm going to do, I can add new layers there. Okay. I use another layers for shadows there, okay? Shadows there. This is basically my drawings, layers there. Don't get mixed up. This is the reference there. So this is the shadows there, okay? I'm going to use one layers only for the shadows. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to detect where basically the part that we actually can paint and form basically the shadows over here. And of course, huge areas use huge kind of sizes of the brushes there, right? Okay? And one of the things that you have to remember when you want to select the shadows paint there, okay? Shadows area there, okay? Either you can use eyedroppers like this one and start to test the paint styles over here, okay? And of course, if you see the flow is quite strong enough there, okay, you can actually reduce more, okay, until 4 to 5%, and slowly you can manage to paint the shadows over here. When you want to paint and also develop the shadows areas that are on the faces there, use the structures of faces to paint. Don't paint like this one there, okay? Or paint like this one only there, okay? without having the right kind of formations of the structures of that form or surface that you want to paint there. Alright, for example, when you want to paint this area, okay, I'm going to move my hands like this one, okay, curve a little bit. So that's how it goes when you want to paint or draw there, right? Okay? Even though when you paint manual, traditional kind of methods, they're going to be applied the same thing. A lot of people always make this kind of mistakes there. They doesn't know how to construct the base structures when they want to paint. Even though we actually have showed them a lot, okay, how they're going to work on that, they still cannot get it right. So learn back again and watch carefully how it works, and then try to apply the right. Use your brain to think the right. How that people actually can paint like this one here. Right? It's quite easy. That it's not a rocket science there, guys. It's not like we want to build up the rocket science that works. So all the methods that I use the same. I'm going to use what we call that. If you take a look closely here, save the files. Done. Alright, Control D. Right, when I actually paint it, right, okay, what I'm going to do, the strokes itself. This is the directions, okay. If I want to draw this side, I'm going to move my hands like this. So I'm going to move my hands like this one. Okay. Back to back. Okay. This side, I'm going to move like this one. This side, I'm going to move like this. This side a bit more like this one. This side move like this. Using the curved line, okay, to make sure you develop that kind of understanding there. Sometimes I move like this a little bit. Using the basic structures there of human face. This is a logic there, guys, okay, to work with your strokes here. That's how it goes. It's a simple things there, right, okay, but you have to practice that, right, okay, not just to what we call that hantam the whole thing there, right, okay, or simply paint without having the right kind of directions that you work. And then the sizes of your brushes also important there, right? The size of your brush is also important. Like when you want to move to the small areas, you have to change the size of your brushes there, okay? And of course, flows will give you more advantage to blend basically your areas that you want to paint. Alright, the flows itself, right? So remember that, how it's actually going to be working. Okay? So hopefully I cover the areas there. So don't make more mistakes there, okay? When you want to paint it, right? So now I'm going to go further into the detailing on those shadows there, right? Okay? If I saw basically 4% also a bit kind of, if I felt like 4% will be kind of strong kind of flows that I actually bring over to those kind of my kind of paint there, right? Paint styles there, right? When I'm painting there, right? So I'm going to reduce a little bit. And of course I will make sure that I really take care of my kind of the choice of color that I use in order to develop my kind of drawings over here to paint the volume of those shadows there, right? Okay. And don't be afraid to experiment, explore those kind of shades and shadings here. See, when I paint it, right? Okay. That's how basically you can grow yourself. And when you start to paint it up, right? I didn't use these base colors there to do some selections before I'm going to paint just now, right? So later on I have to do some selections like this. Click to this what we call that icons over here directly, and then click to the shadows kind of layers, and you can start to paint back again. So this is basically one of the important kind of steps before you go into paint a little bit more further than right. Okay, don't be afraid to add some of the volumes for the shadows there, and then you can improvise later on again to paint back. Okay, now I can add a bit kind of shadows over here. Get more volume over here, right? And I want to paint. Same goes to this part. Adjust a bit the size and blend together there. And this part also, okay, it has to be a bit more darker there, right? If you want to have a very quick result, okay, on what you actually have been working on there, okay, one of the best thing is you can do is start to add a detail of the eyes. Okay, you have to paint the eyes here. Okay, and then you start coloring the eyes there, right? Okay, the pupil, the right, okay, of the eyes there. Remember, guys, don't color into black there, right? Okay, because the outline is black, okay, so you have to use dark brown to enhance more on the eyes here. Whatever that you see from the reference photos, please don't copy exactly that, okay? Unless you want to paint basically according to those kind of super realistic kind of styles there. But right now, we try to graphically apply those kind of illustration style that more into not cartoons there, okay? Don't apply the cartoons there, okay? I'm not actually drawing any cartoons over here. I try to apply basically a graphic kind of illustration styles. We call it graphic illustration styles there, right? Okay. So right now you have the eyes there together, okay? And how actually going to apply the highlights? Easy there. So I'm going to use, okay, adjust the flow a little bit. I'm not going to follow exactly what I saw. I'm going to apply a little bit kind of different kind of highlights over here. And you can see you almost have some of the details there, right? Okay. Even though, of course, okay, we're not drawing portraits there, we try to apply whatever that we saw and adjust back again from your reference into your own kind of drawing styles there, as long as the proportions and alignments were basically right. Okay, now start to paint basically the lips there, right? Adjust the size a bit. Paint slowly there, okay? Zoom in. Because one of the reasons I paint the whole thing, I cannot actually focus only what we call in the certain kind of areas only there, okay? I try to draw or paint the whole kind of what we call that elements that I saw there, okay? So right now, easy for us to see all this kind of level of details. Then I'm going to add some of the detail for those upper lips first and a bit on the lower lips there, right? According to the shadows there. So I add some of the highlights over here. Okay. So you can see how fresh basically the lips is there, right? From here for the first stage. How about the hair colors there? If you take a look at the hair colors also, it doesn't actually purely black. There's some reflection kind of lights that came from above that make it the hair a little bit more like purplish or bluish, brownish a little bit over here. So you must be creative when you want to develop that kind of what we call that color kind of corrections there, right? Okay. So at the moment I'm going to draw or paint basically the highlights or the skin tone of it. Even though I can use normally different kind of what we call that layers there, but I didn't actually add it up like that at the moment. You guys can use also different layers that you want. Okay. So the highlights over here, okay. Paint them back, right? Okay. The highlights there. Same goes to this part there, okay? There's a few highlights over here on the chin and this part there, right? Try basically to paint and improvise the thing that you saw, but make sure the proportion also really well there, right? Okay? The proportions there. Cover with the proportions there, right? Same goes to this part there, right? So a lot of people, they try hard enough to paint exactly as a super realistic, but still cannot get it right. So why you have to bother the whole thing there, right? Whatever that you're going to do right now is the first thing first there, okay? Try to paint, right, okay, according to what you can see, but make sure you at the same time try to manage basically the whole proportions in a correct way there first, okay? Don't focus too much on the detailing there, okay? How good you are, you want to develop that kind of super realistic kind of drawings there first, because it takes a lot of times and hours there to practice all these kind of perfections there. One of the most important thing is to understand first how to develop the right kind of proportions. Okay, so a lot of people always miss this kind of understanding here. They thought that they can do it well by applying I don't know, right, okay, what are the mindset they have there, okay, but they try hard enough to draw exactly as what they see, super realistics, and one of the biggest mistakes people always do, they try to do because they want to impress someone else there, okay. I didn't actually apply that kind of thing to impress you guys. What I do right now, basically, I just want to show you guys how basically the right way to works when it comes to paint the styles that I gave first there. And then you can actually slowly develop your kind of understanding. You want to paint any kind of styles, illustrations as detailed that you want after you have developed the right kind of understanding when you want to, what we call that, learn basically the digital paints there. Okay, so right now it's time for us to draw the hair. All right, to draw the hair there, okay. So this is basically one of the most important thing that people always miss out there, okay. So one of the way that I actually use is I'm going to use Lasso Tools, because they will speed up a bit more on my times if I want to create some shadows line and also the structures of the hair there, right? So what I'm going to do here right now, I'm going to use Lasso Tool because I cannot use the quick selection tool, because my kind of strokes basically is not basically very what we call that, very clean there, okay, in order for me to do all these kind of selections together here. So as long as I can actually get the right kind of selections to each part that I want to paint, right, like this one, and zoom in a little bit to see some of the corrections there that we can make from here. So I try to give you guys one of the examples that how to manage to paint in a more faster way there, okay, to learn. But at the same time, you can develop all this kind of understanding back again while you practice yourself on your own there. So this is one of the methods that I actually introduced to a lot of students there, okay, in order to develop your art, because I'm using the same thing there, guys, okay. When I'm doing my work there, okay, I'm going to do the same, but in terms of developing some of the techniques, some of the methods, some of the process, I've done a few number kind of spontaneous kind of improvement there from that. So now add new layers, because you don't want to mix up with the base color for those what we call that, the skin tone there, okay. So choose the best color that you want to use. Okay, I'm going to use dark brown here. Brush tools, I'm going to increase the size. Either you can use alternate backspace like this one, all right, as the base colors here, but it's too dark there, right? If you take a look here, it's okay. If you use a very dark kind of base colors from here, what you can do, you can enhance more on the highlights there, right? That's basically the beauty of it. But the thing is, right now when you look at this kind of color combination, brown and also a little bit kind of purples there. So what I can do, I paint a little bit more like this one there, right? See, I create my own kind of gradients there, right? Okay? When I come to paint or make the base colors for this, for these illustrations. Okay, so now what I can do here, okay, from this Lasso Tools, I can use another Lasso Tools areas if I want to. For example, like this one, save the base color that is. What I can do, I can use alternate to deselect some of the areas that I want to make it into the, what you call that, the highlights here. Take a look here right now. Okay, so I'm going to create some selections over here first, and then click shift, and I'm going to create some sort of selections over here. I'm going to leave the area that I didn't select there, okay, as a part of those shadows here. See, take a look here, right guys. So the areas that I select basically, okay, that I do selections at, basically is a highlights there, okay. Is a highlight for the hair. And this kind of styles that we can apply when you want to draw some anime styles, like anime kind of paint styles at the same time. It can be applied. So I don't actually spend too much time to develop the hair kind of strokes here, right? Okay, when it comes to this kind of methods there, right? Because it's going to take quite some time there, okay, as I told you guys before, if you want to paint using this kind of strokes here, right? So I try to mix a little bit there, okay, using the traditional paint styles and also the digital paint styles over here. So what I can do right here, either I can actually copy and paste. You can see the area that I select right now, and the area that I select directly, I can actually use screen. See, to create some sort of shadow line, the highlights over here. Screen directly from these layers there. This is one of the quickest way for you guys to develop the hair strokes directly. Okay, this is one of the quickest way, okay, and how to blend with the shadows here, because there's a purple kind of colors over there, right? So what you can do from the shadows line, I'm using purplish a little bit, okay, on the colors itself, and do some selections, then paint over here. Okay, using a little bit kind of purple kind of shadows there, okay. Remember what I said before, okay, that I use, I don't know whether you guys have actually learned before, but in my kind of traditional kind of methods there, okay, I kind of using also purple normally to develop basically my shadows kind of tone there, right? They're going to give a little bit kind of impact on those kind of visuals at the same time there, right? Okay. And of course I forget to color basically those eyebrow there, right? Okay, eyebrows with my brown colors over there and paint there, right? This paint over here. You can use a bit kind of flows. Just a little bit on the colors there, right? And then paint a little bit here. Blend it out. Okay, so here it is, okay guys, okay, how it works here. So even though basically, okay, I'm not actually trying to draw exactly as way that we're going to paint, okay, from the reference of photos directly to get the right kind of what we call that details here. I try to get as close that I can already from these visuals, but most important thing is, if you compare to what you actually have done before, is the proportion that I actually try to apply here already. The proportions here, it has to be right at first. So how to complete the whole thing? So what I can do, alright, we can erase some of the mistakes that we have done here already. Not quite mistake, but a sloppy kind of way of paint styles here. So what I can do right now, add backgrounds directly to complete basically these illustrations there. I'm going to use some grayscale here. Brush, maybe the same brushes, but I'm going to paint the background there, right? There. Using the flows of the whole shapes there to paint the background there, right? To complete basically this task there. So the other thing is, what we can do, we can use also light colors to draw a bit kind of like glow effects there, right? So from here, you can add new layers just to paint basically the glow effects right? Then we can actually apply also to cover some of the mistakes that we have done sometimes. Okay, this is basically the good thing about illustrations here, that I always love to use them. Alright, save the files, and here you go here. So a lot of things we can do from here, okay? So in order to develop your kind of understanding, okay, about the hairline, okay, I can actually use for example here, okay, not on the screen layers there, but these layers over here, because it's a normal layer there, okay, so I can use back again those, either I can use those curl pencil hair strokes, or I can use different kind of light colors over here. Then I'm going to draw some of the highlight there, right, of the hair. Take this one, right. Just to add a little bit kind of details here, right? To mix them up together. So this part right here, I'm going to use light purple there, right? Just to paint some of the areas they're using those drawing line, right? So remember one thing, guys, right here, whatever that you're going to do here right now, you see the difference there. When I add those kind of, like we call that, not too much, okay? When I add this kind of drawing strokes for the hairline area. So you can see basically the difference directly between the illustrations there, and develop your styles at the same time there, right? When you start to paint, okay, that's basically one of the most important things about this exercise, that before you're going to develop more and more your understandings over here. Okay, so don't forget to write your names at the same times over here. Okay, for example, okay, write my names there, right? When actually you draw things all the times. Okay guys, so thank you very much for these lessons. Hopefully you guys can develop more from here. This is very simple kind of methods which I can actually share with you guys for this week's, before we're going to go through and more. But of course, okay, I have done a few number kind of demonstrations there before, using reference, draw on top of it, not trace, but draw on top of it. And at the same time, this time around, basically I'm using basically our own understanding to draw basically the basic structures first, before you're going to clean up the line there. Because for those who really want to test your drawing skills, your illustration skills in digitals, I really encourage you guys to apply this kind of methods that feels right to develop this kind of understanding. All right, so thank you very much. Have a nice day, have a good weekend, and take care of yourself. Bye.